A look back to just a moment ago. It shows that Lorraine was worried about Rentt and was considering having a guild send out a search party. Rentt knocked on the door, so she wondered why he didn't just walk in. She assumed that something must have happened, and she went to pretend like she was sleeping. As he entered, she thought about how relieved she was that he was still alive. Back to the present, Lorraine explained that in all her years of research, she has never heard of anyone who got eaten by a dragon and turned into an undead. Lorraine is skeptical of his entire story, but considering how disgustingly grotesque his body looks, she determines that she has no other choice but to believe him. Rentt is amazed at how calm she is, but it's to be expected from the academic mage adventurer. It's pretty clear that she isn't really looking at him as a friend right now, but more as a test subject. Lorraine then shocks him by asking if he's really Rentt now that he is undead. Rentt explains that he definitely has the memories and mind of Rentt, but his mess of a body definitely died. However, whether or not the current him and the old him are the same person, he doesn't know. Setting aside this impossible question, Rentt explains that he still wants to continue being an adventurer. His body might look like a rotting corpse, but Rentt is still determined to become mithril, no matter what. Lorraine is a genius, and he can tell that he wants her to accept jobs for him. Since he can't go to the guild in his current state, he can't go to the inn either, so she offers to have him stay with her. As payment, she will also have him help her with her research. He will be quite valuable, since no one has ever had the chance to study a monster that can use existential evolution. Rentt agrees on the condition that she doesn't try to dissect him. The next day, Lorraine cuts out the guilt from being the middleman and pays Rentt directly for the magic stones and slime goo he got from the dungeon. It's a lot of money, but it's because Rentt always brings her high-quality materials. Rentt decides to go to the blacksmith and feels good about having a pocket full of money, but that happiness leaves when he notices that people seem to be scared of him. At the blacksmith, Rentt apologizes for his strange appearance. Using his strange voice, Rentt would like a new sword, and the blacksmith can tell from his old sword that he uses magic or spirit energy. Rentt shocks her when he reveals that he actually uses magic, spirit energy, and divinity. She points out that being able to use all three is very rare, and he is only the second such person to ever visit their store. Rentt would like for that to remain a secret, and she agrees since it's part of a blacksmith job. The owner of the shop is named Culp, and he takes a great deal of pride in his work. It will take several days to make the sword, and he will want to speak with Rentt several times throughout the process. Back home, Lorraine does research on ghouls. They have strong physical abilities and are capable of surviving even decapitation. They prefer the meat of animals, particularly that of humans. There are some known cases of powerful monsters turning humans into lesser undead. But in those cases, the victims not only lost their personalities, but also any kind of human will and emotion. Rentt is an extremely special case, and she determines that the chance that Rentt is the exact same person he was in life is extremely low. She is very close to him, and to her, he still feels like Rentt. A look back shows when they first met, and Rentt's skin wasn't falling off his body. Lorraine just took a job, and some guy asked her to take young Rentt with her. He was only a rookie, so she didn't have to pay him, and he just needed experience. Lorraine explains that the world was so boring to her. Even when she became the youngest person ever to attain the title of Great Doctor, it meant nothing to her. The title of Great Doctor allows one to register as a silver-class adventurer. She went to a distant nation without telling anyone simply because she had nothing better to do. During her job, we see that she decided to bring Rentt with her, and he did his job as a backpack carrier. She thought about how careful one needs to be when harvesting this particular plant, and got upset when she saw that Rentt picked a whole bunch on his own. Lorraine was going to scold him since he didn't know how delicate you needed to be, but she was shocked when she realized that Rentt did it perfectly. Just then, a nosy goblin appeared, and Rentt instructed her to use a certain spell. She did, and Rentt was amazed that a silver rank has magic on a whole other level. The next morning, Lorraine told Rentt that wasn't her first battle. She was only flustered because she usually has a lot of escorts with her. Lorraine then realized something, and Rentt came clean. Everyone was worried about her going alone, so they told Rentt to go with her. Rentt was once told by someone to read as much as he could about plants and monsters. He has ever since, so Lorraine asked them to teach her. He also seemed to know how to move through the forest well, so she would like to learn that too. Rentt agreed, and that's how things began. Between the two of them, he worked hard every day for the past 10 years since then with the goal of becoming mithril, and she stayed by his side doing the research she loved. Back at the shop, Rentt, thanks to blacksmith for agreeing to make his sword, cautiously shakes the man's hand. Rentt is given a temporary sword that can use both magic and spirit energy. Colt can tell that Rentt is in some kind of trouble, and they wonder why he doesn't just come to them for help. Colt determines that he must be under some kind of curse, a real bad one that Rentt is worried might affect their shop. Rentt has never wanted to cause trouble for other people, so he was trying to hide his identity. However, the fact that he can use all types of power, along with his staying with Lorraine, helped him realize who he is. Afterwards, Rentt and Lorraine enjoy a meal cooked by Chef Lorraine. Rentt doesn't eat, however, as he doesn't get hungry. Lorraine then explains that Rentt is clearly different than any other ghoul, and it must have something to do with why he's able to existentially evolve. She wonders what Rentt will evolve into next, but he has no clue. Rentt wants to remain as close to humans as he can, so their first step will be to evolve him. This means he will have to return to the Labyrinth to fight monsters and get stronger. In the Labyrinth, some guy is getting wrecked by a slime, and Rentt arrives just in time to save him. The guy thanks him, as he can now live after just receiving a scratch. Rentt leaves immediately and thinks about how adventurers are expected to be responsible for themselves. No one is obligated to help an adventurer, and if they die, it's their own fault. In some cases, there are even terrible people who will pretend to be in trouble so they can rob adventurers who come to help them. That being said, Rentt still tries to help whenever he can. This dude he just saved can tell that Rentt is really strong, so he asks Rentt if he will let him join his party. He explains that he just registered as an adventurer, but he is actually a chef. He has a restaurant, but he is badly in debt, and he needs to repay 15 gold by next week. As a desperate and new adventurer, he was willing to do anything to join a party, but no one would give him a chance. That is why he came to this labyrinth, since it's said that it can be done alone. Rentt thinks about how that is only true and if the adventure is already kind of strong, and he decides to reject the guy. As Rentt leaves, he realizes that he might be being a little too harsh, so he lets the guy join him. The guy tells Rentt that he is dependable, but Rentt takes a long look at this guy's wound. Rentt thinks about how sometimes he gets really scared that he might not really be himself. Rentt takes this guy to the secret entrance where he became undead, but he's disappointed to see that the dragon is no longer there. More disappointment fills Rentt since there are no magic items to be found there, but they do find another hidden passage. The nameless side character thinks they could make a fortune by telling the guild about all this, but quickly backtracks and emphasizes that Rentt would get all the credit. Rentt explains that he has no interest in glory and tells the guy that he can just tell everyone that he found it. While going through the passageway, they find an empty room, so the guy wants to continue looking for some treasure. Just then, a magic circle appears on the ground, so Rentt tries to stop the guy from running right into it. This dumb guy gets some confidence all of a sudden and tells Rentt that it's okay since no monsters are around. It becomes clear to Rentt that the guy doesn't see the magic circle, but it's too late, as it teleports him somewhere. It's impossible to know where they went, but they usually lead to a floor filled with monsters or someplace with deadly traps. The smart thing to do would be to abandon this doofus, but Rentt determines that this would just make him a real monster. Rentt grudgingly decides to go after him, so he goes through the teleportation circle. There he finds the unconscious doofus along with the giant skeleton. Rentt realizes now that this is actually a boss room and prepares for battle against the giant monster. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about the third part of the Unwanted Undead adventure by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.
Take you